And that's a reasonable opinion. You can argue that at least. Now, Japan says it was legal. They did all these documents. They did it legally the same way that any European country, the same way that, like, the British went into India and they made the Indian sultans sign an agreement to say, yes, we are a colony of the Empress of Britain. They did that kind of legally, legal process. And the Japanese say, we did the same thing as the Europeans. So don't blame us. We did the same thing as the French, the Germans, the Russians, the Americans in Cuba, Puerto Rico. We did the same thing as they did, so don't blame us. America doesn't apologize to Cuba and to Puerto Rico. England does not apologize, not very much, to its former colonies. They did a little apology when they liberated them, and then that's it. Done this. France does not apologize to Vietnam, so why should we apologize to Korea? We did the same thing as the white people did. We don't have to apologize just because we're Asian. We're not allowed to do that. We did the same thing as the Europeans did. So don't blame us. But Koreans and China, both, and Vietnam, they say, no, you can't, you shouldn't. That was illegal, that was immoral, and we want apology, we want payment, all these things. He was seriously injured. Now the Five Ulsan Traders assassination group, there was a group of Koreans operating secretly, tried to kill the 5 traders. Mr. Sunshine very much exaggerates how many Koreans were doing this and how they had, like Ashim being an expert shot with every kind of gun, killing Japanese. There was no such person in Korea, and certainly no noble woman of the Yangban class was doing that. But there were some Koreans, and they did attack him, and they injured him. They never killed any of the 5 traders, but they did injure him in 1909. He was awarded by Emperor Meiji, this Iwanryong, as a count, a nobleman of Japan, of the Japanese Empire. In 1910, when Japan took over Korea, he was awarded, and they was raised to a marquis. That means a pretty high level aristocrat of Japan in 1921. So he lived a good life. He was very rich and very luxurious life. He died in 1926. Had a big funeral. Now then, later, in 1945, when Korea got liberation, by the early 1946, the Koreans were around taking revenge. They actually dug up his tomb, dug up his body out of the tomb and dismembered it, chopped the skeleton into many pieces and scattered them around. This was the worst kind of punishment that could ever happen to anybody under the old Joseon dynasty things. They did this to him in 1945. He had been dead already for 20 years, but they cut up his body and scattered it around. Pretty grim. A bad ending for him, and they're still hunting for his great-grandchildren. So trying to get him. Also, on the good side, they show in Mr. Sunshine, they show like Eugene, when he's back in America, meeting another Korean American out on the streets who looks very good, you see, with a nice hat and suit, doing very well. And he introduces himself, I'm An Chang-ho. Yes, one of the very early Korean Americans who became a big star of the anti-Japanese movement later. He's made Eugene and with Asian, these are the first generation, the early, but this is near the end of the series, they're kind of welcoming the next generation. He ends up in China as part of the provisional government of China, together with Kim Koo, running the provisional government of Korea in China, the Korean independence government and such. And if he had lived longer, he might have been very important in the early Korean governments, but he died in 1938, unfortunately. He's one of the guys who wrote the Aegukga, the Korean national anthem. He helped to write the words to that national anthem of Korea that we all still sing today. Yeah. So he meets him there. He's a real figure and an important figure in this. They show that in episode 22, they show the Battle of Namdaemun, I noticed, and that is true, this really happened, where the Korean military soldiers were training, the Japanese was training Korean military, but in 1907, the Governor General, after signing the new treaty with Korea, decided to disband the Joseon military, to just send all the soldiers to go home, take away their guns, because they were afraid that these Korean soldiers would really be loyal to Korea. So the soldiers had a revolt right here in Seoul, near Namdaemun Gate, at their training center, and there was a very bloody fight. And this is from a French magazine, again, this cartoon, French magazine showing what happened. It was a news magazine. This is really true, and they show this. This is where the guardsman, Jang, who first trained Aishim, trained her how to shoot a gun, and later he becomes the personal protector guard of King Kojong in the drama, and then he finally gets killed in this battle, sacrifices himself. He was not real, he's a fictional character, but this battle really happened, this whole thing, and the commander of the Korean Guard committed suicide, shot himself, when the Japanese said, no more Korean army. This is the way Namdaemun looked back then, and this is how it looks today. This is, okay, this GIF, it's working good. When you watch this GIF, you know this, you've seen it. The hotel blows up. This is at the end of episode 22, beginning of episode 23, they repeat it. The hotel totally blows up, and the two of them, Dongmei and our hero Eugene, are blown back. And the girl, Aishim, she helped to get this going, but the owner of the hotel wanted to put the dynamite. That hotel, the Glory Hotel, they show this is where all the Westerners are meeting. This is fictional place. There was no Glory Hotel, but they show the meeting, and then they show the Japanese soldiers taking it over. After the Japanese soldiers, after the Battle of Namdaemun, when they killed all the Korean soldiers, then they were meeting in this hotel to celebrate. And they're showing how evil are the Japanese, like showing it with their knife, saying, I killed so many soldiers, look at the blood, I killed the Joseon soldiers with this. And they're all eating and drinking and celebrating, which is probably not really what happened at all. But in the hotel, and then these guys, you see, they blew it up, the Glory Hotel. They put dynamite in there, blew up the hotel. This never happened. There was never any hotel that was blown up in Joseon at this time, and the Japanese soldiers were not in any such hotel. But there was a real hotel that this is modeled on, that is modeled and looks like. There's a real place, the Songdag Hotel. You can see the site of this, at least where it used to be, in Jeongdong. In Jeongdong. This building, this became part of the Simpsons Girls' School of Korea later. But this is the first hotel, the first European-style hotel. Japanese and such had some very simple barracks and such set up for visitors. Very primitive, dirty, not good at all with the Joseon style. This is the first Western-style hotel with a comfortable bed, and beautiful windows, and drapes, and carpeting, and a nice dinner kitchen complex and all. This is what they're modeling after in Mr.